Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about service playing and how to include breathing in your hymns. The different thing about playing for singers as opposed to instrumentalists is that they breathe. When you're playing for instrumentalists, you don't have to take into account that they will have to stop or do anything to catch their breath. They can just keep going and keep going. But if you're playing for singers, they need some time at the end of every phrase to stop and to take a breath and to go on and sing the next phrase. And the same for in between hymn verses. Now, if you're a conductor of a choir, you can give people a cutoff, like just stop what you're doing and conduct and cut them off, or hold something, and they know exactly what they're supposed to do because they can see your hands. But when you're playing organ, you don't have a clear way of conducting the choir, that is the congregation. You have to demonstrate where you want them to take breaths in different ways. And the most clear way to do that is by including silence in your playing, not just playing everything connected as you might for a different instrument, but including silence, saying, this is where you take a breath right here. So I'm going to play through a couple of examples of this. The hymn that I'm going to use for this is the doxology, Praise God from whom all blessings flow. And first of all, I'm going to play this through without any breaks in the hymn or anything else included to add rest. So I'm going to start out by playing through the hymn. This is as smoothly as possible, no breaks. Now, pitch-wise, everything was all there. The notes of the hymn were there, and people could follow that. But the problem was they might not have a clear idea of where they're supposed to take a breath between phrases. They hear you holding the note a little bit, but they don't know exactly when and where they should stop and start taking a breath, and you need to point that out to them. So what you would do in this hymn, because each phrase ends with a half note, in this case you'd make it into a quarter note. One, off, da, 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 and so on. So think of it as not adding necessarily extra time, but taking the time that is there and adding some silences into that so people know where to breathe. Now I'll do that, I'll add in some rest, and I'll play through this again. So you see how I added in some space between the phrases of the hymn, and I also added a little space at the end. People knew that because they don't want to keep singing if you're not playing because everybody would hear them, they know where they're supposed to be taking a breath, and that's all very clear. So that's one thing that you can do to help them know, okay, I'm supposed to breathe here, okay, now I'm ready to sing the next phrase. And that makes a lot of sense, even if you don't know how to read music or if you're learning. Now, one thing that people do is sometimes hold out the last note in the phrase of the hymn for a long time, thinking, well, people will have enough time, so they'll have enough time to take a breath and then keep singing. But people don't always know how long because it's not really clearly measured out. So someone might do something like this. like I said before, when people hear you playing, they want to hold the same pitch with you. So sometimes that doesn't always work. They think, well, she's still holding the note here, so I should keep singing. And oh, okay, now we're supposed to start the next phrase. So it's a little bit unclear, and I don't really like to do it, but you are giving people time, so that's a good thing, but it's better to just add rests in between the phrases. Another thing that I briefly mentioned before was adding in space between the verses. You can say a phrase like Elvis Presley lives between the verses to give you enough space, just something that's about 2 seconds long. And people need to hear a little chunk of silence before they begin the next verse. So you might do something like this. So there you lifted and you gave people enough time to stop and to regroup and to be ready to start the next verse. And it also gives you some time to change registration too. So there are a few things to think about. Remember that you're playing for singers who need to breathe, and when you support their breathing, you're helping them sing well, and that's the most important thing about service playing. So thank you for watching the video, and we'll see you next time. Bye.